And I've had an interest over the years in Celtic knots. And actually, I think we pronounce it Celtic knots. And I got to playing around, just curious as to how were they made. And you know, they're ancient. They're not only in Ireland and Scotland, but they're from the Asian countries. There's history of, from the beginning of time almost, there were signs of these Celtic knots. And I just have been fascinated over the years as to how they actually were able to make them. And this last year, we actually got to go see the book of, well, 2 years ago now, the Book of Kells. And I'll be posting a little bit more about that and a little more history. I am fascinated with them, but I am not an authority on their history. I just know they've been around for many, many years. And the curiosity of how they were made, well, good old Google, a couple of years ago, got online and discovered some videos on YouTube, and I'm going to post the gentleman's name. You can go on and see what he has done, but I'm going to show you in the simplest form. Hopefully we'll do a little project together. But I'm going to segue a little bit from that and show you first this wonderful little book. And you see it's well eaten. Well, my little Kramer dog a few years ago, see what he did to it. He ate the corners. And I have all kinds of treasures in this book. I mean, he ate back here. Well, I don't have the heart to throw this book out because it's got too many precious memories. So I'm living with the little teeth marks, and I always remembering the day I discovered what he had done to my book. I mean, get a load of these pages right here. I mean, this is a true memory, right? Anyhow, this little book is, the reason why I'm showing it to you is it has grids. So you can see the grids over here, this way. And it's great to work with a journal that have those grids. I have a point for showing you all of this. Stay with me. But because of the grids in this book, this was one of an early on book that I started experimenting with. And here on these pages are some alphabets that I started drawing and experimenting with. Several pages of them. And you can see alongside of like F, I put words that came to mind. We have flavor, or favor, excuse me, forgive, forever. The G, I wrote glory, grace. And I enjoy doing that. I think I pointed that out to you before with the alphabet and with lettering. I've got some other lettering in here that I was working on. If I can quickly draw or turn to the page. I have all kinds of things in this little book. It really is a treasure trove for me. Here's some other lettering I was practicing. Because of the grid, it helped me draw them. And then I went to experimenting with shapes in this book, using the same shape basically, and just experimenting with moving the dark to places where it's light, and just to see the different looks that you get. So this is a fun book for me. I'll show you a couple more pages in here of where I did some random shapes and designs, and the grid allowed me to make little boxes and experiment, helped me. So I also used this book when I first started experimenting with Celtic knots. So here's a page that I started experimenting with after I watched some of these videos on YouTube, and I will share that with you. And I was just amazed that I discovered the kind of a little, I don't want to use the word trick, but the help of how to draw these. They just kind of, I started and I didn't put the book down for days, I think, once I started to comprehend. Show you a few more here. Here's one that's done in the round. And adding some color to follow some of the strands around to see some design and shape within the shape. Now, this is just how my brain works. I find projects like this extremely fascinating and challenging to figure out how did they do that. I've spent a lot of time, and it's a great way to work with shading and experiment with shading, which is kind of fun. Just doing it in black and white and lead pencil. One more. And I find this is very relaxing for me to do. And so I'm going to share with you how to get started. One more. See, there's other shapes here that, oh my goodness, you can add this to so many different projects. If you're one that makes greeting cards, or you maybe just like to doodle. If you're a doodler like me, this might draw you into a bunny hole that you never come out of. And I just find it so fun to sit and just, okay, this one's the last one. Okay, here we are. Hopefully you'll be able to see this a little bit better. I've made a grid here, and we're going to talk about how we get that grid made. I used a good old dressmaker. Use it for actually quilting, square, and it has wonderful help on it because, first of all, it's see-through. So if you draw a line on your paper, it's very, very easy to line up and see if you're right on straight. So something like this is very helpful. It doesn't have to be see-through, but let me tell you, it makes it easier. And these are not expensive. I use this in a lot of different drawing. Also, it's done on the 1/4 inch, and so it was very easy for me, for demonstration purposes, to use a 1/2 inch grid. And my first suggestion is get a line. Get your first line right up here. And in order to make it straight, doesn't have to be straight to the paper, but I decided I wanted it straight to the paper, is I lined the edge, or one of the lines, I should say, on my ruler, 1/2 inch, lined it up there, so then I could just use the edge of the ruler to get my grid started. So once I had the top line made, then I could come down and, make a square. I think you all can figure out how that is done. So I have 3 across and 3 down. And this is to show you how to start out with just a basic grid if you're not using a paper like what's over here, where there's a grid on this paper here. So an alternative. Now, if you're going to use a journal that you're drawing in and making your own grid, you want a paper that is very smooth. You don't want any texture to this paper. You'll not be happy with it. So you do want to really examine, make sure that you're a nice, smooth paper, because if you're going to do any shading, you just don't want any resistance on the paper. after you get the grid made, then we're going to move to this part right here, and you start making a circle at the intersections. And you want your circles to be as close to the same size one another. So every grid where it's crossing, make your circle. Just as simple. Don't want to press too hard, but at every intersection, do a little circle. Now, I am using a mechanical pen here, number 2 lead. You can use pencils like this. These are not number 2. This is a 2B, I believe this is what it says. I'll tell you why I don't like using these is you get too much lead on your paper and you can smear it too easily and have a real mess. These are good for other purposes. Sometimes in the shading I will use them, but there again, I gotta tell you, my favorite is just a good old number 2. The other things you want to have is you want to have a good eraser. I like these, but you can use any other kind of good eraser that is comfortable for you to use. And I do have my little smudger out here for if we get into some shading. And I'll talk about the ink pen, the felt pens in just a little bit. But first of all, go around and at every intersection, draw your circle. And we have them out here on the corners. I missed the corner on that kind of, but make them all uniform. Then after you get the intersections done, come back and do a circle right in the very center of each one of these squares. And try to have them as uniform as possible. Now, you want to press hard enough that you see it, but you don't want to press super hard, and you'll understand why, because a lot of this is going to get erased. All of these grid lines are going to get erased. So you've just made your own grid that could already be in one of these journals like this. So we're going to turn the page here, and you're going to see where we're going here. This is what we're going to be making, is this right here. And we get that from starting over here with an open grid with nothing in it. So now back to this grid that's right here. The first thing I do, I don't touch any of the lines outside here. We're just going to work on the center ones, and I'll show you what that means. So we want to connect these two. We're going to start right up here. I could start over here, I could start here, but I'm going to choose to start here. And you want to actually kind of get the outside edge of this circle, so I'm going to bring my lead pencil kind of even with that there. I'm going to draw right straight across to that side. Now I'm going to make the other side of this little channel, ribbon, whatever you want to call it. So I hope that is showing up okay. I'll try to draw it a little heavier. So those are my first 2 marks. Now I'm going to make the next sec that's going to intersect with that. And you're just going to come down following the inside of these 2 circles, okay? Now your eye can probably already tell you that we're going to do the next side of this channel. Try to do them straight. Sometimes I get a little bow. And we're going to come off on this side of the grid. So missed that mark real good, Linda. And on this side. So let's go over here, and you want to butt your line right up to this line. You want to connect it. You don't want any gap in there. This is kind of hard to do from this angle. I'm getting a little bow in my lines, but that's okay. You just know I'm not perfect. So here we're going to connect these and come right up and touch this. You don't want a gap in there. You want that nice and connected. And don't worry too much that your line's a little bow. We have an eraser and we're going to do some other filling in. So you can begin to see what's happening. You just want these to always go in opposite directions. So this is going in this direction. These are going in this direction, alternating. So this would connect here. You do this a little bit and your eye's going to see it real quick what you need to do. Make sure you connect that line up, though. That's the important part. So you're really going from the outside of this circle that you made, even with the outside edge across. And you can also see why it's important to have your circles all be the same size. For instance, here I did a very poor job. This is a little circle. It really should be a little bit bigger so it's the same size as that one. And we're going to connect here and here. Now, that's all the inside ones. They're all done. I've not touched anything that meets up to these outside edges. And you want to get in a habit of being consistent. I'm going to erase these little arrows. In catching all the inside first and then go to the outside. It's just good to form that habit. You'll not mess up on getting some of these in the wrong direction if you don't skip around and you just start in the center and kind of build. So now we're ready to do the outsides, and I'm not going to touch the corners yet. I'm going to connect these right here. So I'm going to go up and touch the outside line, come over, and here's our little circle we had here. In your mind, you want this to be a continuation of that right there. So I kind of cleaned that up a bit. Let's go over here and do this one now. So it's a continuation. This circle that was a little, you can see what's happened with this line here. Let me straighten that up just a little bit. And by the time we're all done, those little extra lines will all be taken care of. So let's go and do this one here. We're coming up, touching the outside line, and think in your mind, this line here is to connect to this over here. This should connect right around this, like it's going under the bridge. We'll call this a little bridge. And then we've got this one here to finish. So we'll come around. Don't go beyond this grid line here. You can come right up to it, touch it just a bit, and pretend like it's gone under the bridge and is connecting up with this side here. Okay, now we have all four corners yet to do. And you probably can see with your eye already what is going to happen. We're going to come up, touch this outer edge here. You want to, we have this circle here, so come up and touch that circle, and you're going to touch this outside edge again and bring it right down and pretend it falls under the bridge and would connect up with this side right here. Now, this is a rounded circle. Some people like to do these. They're drawn in different ways. Some like to come up and go right and make this a sharp corner like that. And you can do it either way. It's just whatever your preference is. Again, we're going to round this one out. Okay? And this one here will come up. Let's do a square corner. And we'll kind of round that out. So all of a sudden, you have a Celtic knot. And it's all about having a grid that you begin by putting circles in the intersection, like this. And when you get all of them made, you come back and you're going to do the one in the center. And remember, these circles are all going to be the same size. And when you get all of that done, turn back over here again. Here's your grid. And now is when now you can leave it in the lead pencil, or you can take your felt tip. I like to use this brand here. I think I showed you these once before. And you're going to go over the top of all your lines for the Celtic. And you can see I filled in where the circles were, and I had some curvy lines. I straightened them out with my felt tip pen, and then voila, you take your eraser. This is why you want a paper that is a hard finish and very, very smooth, and you erase. Now, I'm sure the monks sitting in the cave did not have erasers. And this is probably not the method in which they made. Theirs are still a mystery. They were very artistic, very, very bright people. But this is how we can make them today. And so there, all of a sudden, you have a nice Celtic knot. So all your lines, you think, oh, I made a curved line, that doesn't look very good. Well, you get to clean that up when you use your felt tip pen. And then over here, I actually used colored pencil for you to show you there's 3 separate tracks in here. You can see the blue I did complete. Then there's a separate one for the green, and then you get this circle right here. And I just find you get a design within a design, and they're fun to do, relaxing to do. So I hope you have a chance to play around. We're going to make some more in another episode, teach you some other little nuances about making them, and I will be posting the name of the gentleman and his YouTube site. Oh my goodness, he is a master, and he's done some beautiful, beautiful things. I'm just trying to do it in a simple form to encourage you to experiment and maybe find something fun to do. So I hope you enjoyed that today. We'll be making another episode here in another week, and doing some more Celtic knots. Thanks for joining me. And if you've enjoyed this, well, it's on YouTube too, but in our group, please hit like and share. That would be most helpful. I would appreciate that. And it helps me maintain a spot, or grow a spot, I should say, on YouTube, if you will do that for me. And have a good day, and I hope you enjoy some of our beautiful weather. Have a good day. Bless you. See you next week.